We are in the home stretch of this Penn State coaching search, and despite all of the noise, the distractions, Terry Smith has this team playing its best football.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State football, and as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. I hope everyone enjoyed Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Thankful for each and every one of you for making this show a part of your holiday break here. As we are going to talk about, this is my Penn State Rutgers preview. So we're getting into a score prediction, keys to the game later on in the show, talking about Rutgers in depth, what we saw with Penn State football practice. But the head coaching search is coming to an end here, and Penn State's playing some of its best football all season long. That's a testament to Terry Smith. And I'm going to give you my prediction as far as where this coaching search ends up. What is Penn State thinking? Are they going to go with Terry Smith? Is there a mystery candidate that's gonna vault to the top here? So we'll get into all of it here to open up the show. But Penn State playing its best football. Terry Smith has done an incredible job. To the naysayers that say Terry Smith isn't qualified, that okay, it's just Nebraska, it's just Michigan State, and then it's going to be it's just Rutgers. You're right. This hasn't exactly been a gauntlet for this Penn State team. I agree with you, but where was this all season? Where was any of this all season? Because this Penn State team was always talented, and it kind of shows that, maybe a Penn State coaching change was necessary because Penn State had all these strengths, and yet they didn't really lean into them at all. The downfield passing attack is there. Ethan Grunkemeyer looks like he can be a quarterback for the future at Penn State. I'm not here to say that he's an all-star, that he's an elite QB now, but he has shown the signs of it. And Terry Smith was able to unlock all of it. He went to Andy Kotelnicki and said, we're going to make the downfield passing attack a threat. We are going to get rid of the gimmicky plays. We are going to make Kaytron Allen the lead feature running back and still find a way to get Nicholas Singleton involved because he's not a bad football player. He's not. We're just not putting him in positions to succeed. Kobe Howard needs more playing time. Andrew Rapplier needs more playing time. We got to shake up the personnel rotations between wide receiver and tight end. We got to settle down the offensive line. And all of that is there. We didn't see this against Nevada. We didn't see this against FIU, even Villanova. Okay, Penn State, the scoreboard tells you a different story. Maybe not against FIU, but against Villanova and Nevada, okay, Penn State won decisively. They won comfortably. Surely they were dominant from start to finish. If you watch any of those games, you're scratching your head. It was difficult to watch because the talent was there. And Terry Smith was able to put it together, which is why he is absolutely a legitimate candidate, because this team has nothing to play for. They have absolutely nothing to play for, and yet I've seen the most inspired football from them. Was it the pressure at the end of the day? Potentially, but that shouldn't have been the end-all be-all when this team, the building blocks were there. The vision for this team to succeed was there. All the things that I had talked about in the offseason, returning the offensive line. The offensive line's playing its best football right now. Going back to when they went on that playoff run, they look exactly like that again. They are peaking. Ethan Grunkemeyer looks like a talented, capable quarterback in the Big Ten, hopefully for the future at Penn State, because he has 3 years of eligibility. I would like Ethan Grunkemeyer as the QB of the future, depending on what direction Penn State goes in with its coaching search. But you very well have your QB. Kaytron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, they are elite. They are a dynamic duo. You have to find a way to maximize them, and Penn State didn't. Oh, and Jim Knowles' defense, it's too complicated. Well, Terry Smith simplified it. He simplified the offense. I think the offense got too complicated. And Terry Smith went one by one, had a checklist, and there was not one single mistake that he made when it came to these decisions, when it came to these changes. That's what's impressive. And especially the passion, the determination, the fun, right? They look like they're having fun. This is a Penn State team that I would not want to play under any circumstances. Indiana would not want to play this Penn State team again because they got dealt a bad hand. You went through a gauntlet when you were in the process of making these changes. Well, why didn't they beat Iowa? Why didn't they beat Ohio State? Why didn't they beat Indiana? Okay, come on. That's the number one Ohio State team. They nearly upset Indiana. And then after a demoralizing loss, when you also lost your starting quarterback for the season, and you're supposed to walk into Kinnick Stadium and beat them, if they played Indiana, I know this for a fact. If they played Indiana or Iowa again, I'm not going to go as far as Ohio State because that's Ohio State. They play those games over right now. They beat Iowa by at least 2 touchdowns, and they beat Indiana. They win that game against Indiana. That is where this team is at. So in regards to the head coaching search, Terry Smith is a legitimate candidate, deserves consideration, very well could be the next head coach of Penn State. He allegedly had that interview this week. He's denying it, saying he's focused on Rutgers, but it's been reported that there was a plan to interview him this week. Hopefully he knocked it out of the park because I think Terry Smith can lead this team. Where Penn State's actually going to go, I've explained this a little more in depth on another episode, but I think it's down to 3 people. Terry Smith is one of them, Bob Chesney, and Penn State's waiting, Kalen DeBoer. Is there a mystery candidate in there? I can't say there is. I just think it's interesting because it's fun, right? It's interesting. It's entertaining to say, oh, who's this mystery guy that is supposedly going to be in this Penn State coaching search late? I can say this with honesty. Penn State and Pat Kraft probably did not expect this coaching search to go the way that it did. Being told no by a lot of prominent candidates, but it's also the situation. Texas A&M being a college football playoff favorite, a national title favorite, contender. They're undefeated. If the situation was different, Texas A&M is a fringe playoff team. They might not get in. Mike Elko probably is the next head coach at Penn State. So there's just a lot of inconvenient timing in this situation. And that's the risk that you take when you fire a coach mid-season and you allow somebody like James Franklin to go into Virginia Tech. So with all that being said, Penn State was waiting for the regular season to finish up. We could get that decision. Maybe that's leaked on Sunday. Maybe that is later on next week, but the decision is coming next week. And most people are probably going to say, finally, this is over, because it has been. I agree with some people when they say this has been stressful. I think it's made for great conversations here, but to sum it all up, what direction is Penn State going in? Kalen DeBoer, Bob Chesney, Terry Smith, in that order. They are waiting. I think they are being patient, and they are waiting to see, okay, do we have an opportunity to try to get Kalen DeBoer here? If Alabama wins the Iron Bowl, which they are projected to do, which they are favored to do, and they get to the SEC championship, there's no denying that they're going to be in the college football playoff, okay? But if Kalen DeBoer loses the Iron Bowl to a rival like Auburn, Alabama's going to run him out of town. Alabama is and then with Lane Kiffin being a free agent, even though he's the head coach at Ole Miss, there is that allure that, hey, we can make a change and we can get somebody even better that fits what we're trying to do in Tuscaloosa. So if the Iron Bowl does go to Auburn, I absolutely see this unfolding where Lane Kiffin becomes the next head coach at Alabama. Kalen DeBoer gets pushed out. He's displaced, and Penn State needs an elite head coach. Kalen DeBoer still is that, even though it's not working exactly as they thought it would be in Alabama. If Alabama does everything correctly, they win, they go to the postseason, they're probably going to go with Bob Chesney. And that's not a bad hire, but that's the backup plan here. Because UCLA, I've seen all the steam, all the rumors that Bob Chesney is the leading candidate for UCLA, as he should be. But I think Chesney is waiting on Penn State to make that decision. Kalen DeBoer is the primary candidate. Bob Chesney is the backup. And then if something goes wrong with the negotiations with Bob Chesney, maybe he does ultimately want the UCLA head coaching job, then Penn State's probably going to go with Terry Smith. So that's where I see this coaching search finalizing, finishing up with Kalen DeBoer as the primary candidate, the unlikely one. But if there's a disaster, that's what Penn State is waiting for. They don't get Kalen DeBoer, they'll go with Bob Chesney. Something crazy falls apart with Chesney, they're going to go with Terry Smith. So that's where I think things will change, or that's where I think things will end up. So Penn State does take on Rutgers. This is a one final prove it moment for Terry Smith and this Penn State team. How do they match up against Rutgers? Oh, they match up very well, and you should expect them to score a lot of points. We're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift. And Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to friends and family, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to your door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here and the deals, they are huge. I've been given an Omaha Steaks as a gift before, and I always enjoy that as a holiday present. The excitement when the box arrives, and the quality is exactly what you're hoping for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking even easier. The variety is underrated. Steaks, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts. It's one of those gifts that truly fits for anyone. And honestly, it's the kind of gift that brings people together. So save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and add an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale. And for an additional $35 off, use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Promo code COLLEGE. Again, that's omahasteaks.com, promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. This Penn State team is fighting, showing a ton of passion. This Rutgers team, I don't know how prepared they're going to be for this one. This is an interesting Rutgers team, though, that can put up some points. The matchup isn't favorable, but they're at least going to keep the game exciting and keep Penn State on its toes for the most part. And I'll get to my final score prediction later on in the show. But with what was seen at practice, okay, so Chaz Coleman returned. So we'll talk about Penn State practice observations and then get to Rutgers in depth. Penn State players returning from injury, guys like Chaz Coleman, Owen Wayfair along the defensive line. That is huge. Game time decision, though, for Chaz Coleman, but Penn State's pass rush, okay, between Denai Dennis-Sutton, Zariah Fisher, Zane Durant, they've been able to pick up the slack, but having Chaz Coleman back would be massive for them. I also think Owen Wayfair, with the increase in playing time, you can never have too much defensive tackle depth, as we figured out here. So Penn State's in a solid situation there, at least in a better situation. Offensive line is healthy, right? We'll see the running back tandem of Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. Cam Wallace will be that third running back if necessary, right? But they're going to lean on those two since it is the final regular season game, potentially the final career game for both Singleton and Allen in a Penn State uniform. Just some other observations that I want to put out there. Again, notice the tight end and wide receiver rotations for Penn State, with not only Kobe Howard getting more playing time, but also a subtle change to the tight end room. Khalil Dinkins is getting a decent amount of playing time still, but we have not seen a lot of Luke Reynolds recently. Okay, we did see him on that special teams play against Nebraska, and he's done that twice now in his Penn State career, and he's a player with a ton of upside. But right now, who is better? Who offers you the most comprehensive skill set among the tight ends? And that's been Andrew Rapplier. Andrew Rapplier has been that star tight end now that I think he's settled in, right? It takes time to shake off the rust of a long-term injury like that. He had a leg injury, and Rapplier, it was a pretty even split across the board, 33% really across the board between Dinkins, Reynolds, and Rapplier. And now I think Rapplier's really emerged as that leading tight end. He caught a touchdown pass against Nebraska. He's arguably, maybe he's taking over as the best blocker. I know Khalil Dinkins gets that. He gets that praise. He gets that award because of how good, how avid of a blocker he is. I'm seeing Andrew Rapplier with the most complete skill set among the trio there. So that's why you're seeing that increase in playing time. And these are just some subtle changes of why Penn State is where it is now and why it's playing some of its best football because of those changes. And that's what I want to shout out Terry Smith for, to make the changes, to get the downfield passing attack going, to make the change at running back, to get Katron Allen as the feature guy, and then use Singleton in a variety of other ways, settle down the offensive line, change the wide receiver and tight end rotations, simplify Jim Knowles' defense, make the necessary changes for player personnel as well. Alex Tatch getting more playing time, Darius Dixon with the defensive backs, Alex Tatch at linebacker, and this team just playing with passion overall. They're playing motivated. So good luck to Rutgers as we look at this team again. A team that I respect more so than in years past. Kirk Ciarrocca, as the offensive coordinator, Greg Schiano still running this team. And as we gathered from Richie O'Leary, who is the Rutgers expert on the show, and also he was a former Penn State insider when he was managing the Penn State rival site before it went away. But this is a Rutgers team that he follows for On 3 now, that covers in depth. And he says, hey, this is one of the better teams, which is clearly why he went on the record to say that the Scarlet Knights would pull off the upset here. And he did message me just recently and said that I actually want to walk that back because the Rutgers isn't as healthy as we thought they were going to be. But a team that they can push the football downfield. Kirk Ciarrocca is still a pretty solid offensive coordinator. He's beaten previous Penn State teams in the past when he was at Minnesota. Ethan Kaliakmanis, the quarterback, 60% completion percentage. He's a dual threat. His rushing stats aren't going to look that great because when he's utilized as a runner, he's been tackled behind the line of scrimmage. But Kaliakmanis can move. He can throw the football. He's got a trio of wide receivers to throw to. So this Penn State secondary is going to be tested, whether that's in man coverage or whether that's in zone. So you got to get after, if you're Penn State, you got to get after the line of scrimmage. If that's dialing up some blitzes, if that's maximizing Deni Dennis Sutton and whomever is available on the defensive line, you cannot give Kaliakmanis time to go through his progression. So you cannot sit back and say, all right, we'll play zone. We're going to trust 3 or 4 players to get after the quarterback. You might want to dial up some more blitzes here, which is what Penn State has done. That prowler package has been so key, a staple in Manny Diaz's defense that Terry Smith, he brought back and put it in Jim Knowles' defense here. But to continue with Rutgers, the passing attack here, the downfield passing attack helps them out a lot. You have KJ Duff, you have Ian Strong, and you have DT Sheffield. And it's a fairly even split. Now, KJ Duff is the home run threat, so to speak. He's leading in terms of yards per catch. And now the receptions across the board, it's a pretty even distribution. You have KJ Duff with 55 receptions, Ian Strong with 49 receptions, and DT Sheffield, with 42 receptions. But that big play threat is definitely going to come from KJ Duff. So Zach Wheatley is going to have to key in on that one. AJ Harris, whomever is going to shadow there, Darius Dixon, Elliott Washington, Davian Collins. It goes back to what I've said. Penn State really has a solid secondary rotation between those 3, but then Darius Dixon emerging to offer some more insurance there on the back end of the defense. And you're seeing King Mack play so much better. Antoine Raymond is the leading running back for them. 215 carries, over 1,000 yards a season, 12 touchdowns. He is the workhorse back, really talented back. And I think somebody that picks right off of where Kyle Monungai, who was a good running back for Rutgers just last season, now with the Chicago Bears, is playing phenomenally well. There's Jashawn Benjamin, too, for this Rutgers offense, just to give them another complementary piece to spell Raymond. And then on the defensive side, this defense, they don't get after the quarterback at all. Rob Smith was an analyst on this Penn State team once upon a time, is now the defensive coordinator. Rutgers is terrible on defense. This is a team that's outside of the top 100 overall. They're outside of the best 100 defenses. And should I even say that? Should I even frame it that way? So they are one of the worst defenses in college football. Bottom 5 when it comes to defending against the run. They don't get any pass rush. They have only 10 sacks as a team on the season. Penn State should be able to get explosive plays. Do they get into the 40s, right? We'll talk about that in just a moment on the other side, but this is a matchup for Penn State's offense that is finally finding rhythm. They are playing with an identity. They are leaning into their strengths once again, and then instead of playing so timidly, and a Rutgers defense that you just don't want to walk into that situation. So this Penn State team is primed to score a lot of points. Can they get into the 40s against a defense that is one of the worst in defending the run, one of the worst in terms of defending explosive plays? Well, we're going to discuss that next here coming up on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is right. FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And those bonus bets can be used on anything over at FanDuel. NBA basketball, NFL football, college football. We're talking about Penn State versus Rutgers. How about these lines? Penn State is a pretty decent favorite here once again, minus 13.5 on the spread. They are a 13.5 point favorite here. Minus 590 on the money line, plus 440. If you're thinking Rutgers for the upset, the total is set at 55.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. So, and remember, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Can this Penn State team get into the 40s against Rutgers? Well, I'm going to give you my final score prediction here, plus some keys to the game. So this is a matchup that very much benefits Penn State, as we have talked about over the course of this show. Rutgers, their defense is atrocious. This is, if you thought Nebraska's defense was bad, Rutgers takes it a step further here. And a Penn State team that is peaking at the right time. Rutgers still a well-coached team, but this is an offensive-minded team between Kirk Shiraka and what they do well with the trio of wide receivers that they have. So I am anticipating points in this game for two reasons. Because one, Penn State is peaking. This offense has taken such a massive step forward. It's found its identity again, where you have a downfield passing attack that Ethan Grunkemeyer has settled into. He doesn't look like a first-time starting quarterback anymore. And it's all components of it. The offensive line is playing much better than it has been all season. You are seeing wide receivers massively wide open. They are completely wide open. Where was that all season long? Okay? And now you are seeing the ground game be what it's been for the past 3-4 years. Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen. Katron Allen has looked great. But where was Singleton? Where was that home run threat? The explosive plays? It's back. And against a Rutgers defense that is one of the worst in defending against the run, you still have some records to get to, right? Katron Allen can get to 4,000 rushing yards. That's going to be easy, though. That takes 60 yards for him to get to 4,000 career rushing yards. Nicholas Singleton still after that touchdown record for this weekend. So I am going to go 42-17. And Rutgers, they won't go away. So there's potential for them to have another late touchdown here. But with what I've gathered as of late, Rutgers not as healthy as they initially thought they were going to be. They're a little banged up. We saw from practice that Chaz Coleman has returned. So Penn State is getting some key players back that had been missing due to injury and everything. So Penn State healthier at this moment in time. The matchup benefits them. They're also in a spot where they just have more momentum. Okay, Rutgers, yes, they are bowl eligible, but Penn State is definitely rolling at this point in time. So the keys to the game for Penn State is to continue to do what they've been doing, capitalizing on the opponent's weaknesses, out-talent them, allow Ethan Grunkemeyer to settle in, but he doesn't have to throw the football a ton because he has both Singleton and Allen to hand the football to. And we're going to pretty much see the same game plan that's been over the course of these past few weeks. You don't have to make any changes. And again, this Rutgers team, pretty similar to Michigan State and Nebraska. And again, I want to add this in, okay? Penn State is playing some of its best football under Terry Smith at this point in the season when there's not much to play for. Okay, bowl eligibility is on the line. Still to be determined if they even accept that bowl invite, depending on what direction they go in with this head coaching search. But did we see any of this against Nevada, FIU, even Villanova? Oh, okay, Penn State won those games decisively, but not utter domination. And you can do that again against a Rutgers defense that, again, is truly the worst against defending the run. They allow over 200 yards per game. That is 129th in FBS. It is bottom 5. So you lean on the ground game. The offensive line should be able to move people. Penn State's defense continues to improve. Okay, so I talk about the offense. Jim Knowles' system, they simplified it, but there's still elements that are there that are a part of a Jim Knowles defense that Penn State is finally capitalizing on, that they have now learned over the course of the season. You learn from your mistakes, you get better, you close the loops. And so Rutgers, that's why I put them at 17 points, because I don't know that they necessarily get into the 20s, especially if Penn State's going to be able to run the football effectively and just kind of take the clock away from them. But with Rutgers receivers, as I've mentioned, Ethan Kaliakmanis, they will continue to push the pace. They will continue to try to move the football as best as they can. This is a team that can play from behind because of what they have. So it would not surprise me if Rutgers gets a late touchdown in garbage time or anything like that. So give me 42-17. That's definitely a Penn State situation where they cover the spread. The total is going to go over, and with the room potential for more points in this game. So Penn State, great spot to get into bowl eligibility. Players to watch for: the running backs, of course. There won't be as much passing from Penn State, but they will have those explosive plays. Again, Andy Kotelnicki has done so well. I'm looking for Denai Dennis-Sutton. If Chaz Coleman is in fact available, he's a game time decision to absolutely wreak havoc on this Rutgers offensive line. Kind of similar to Nebraska, their offensive tackles are just not that good. So the edge defenders, and that includes Zariah Fisher as well. This is the final regular season game for a lot of these seniors. So look for the defensive line to have a big day. Maybe Zach Wheatley gets an interception. I definitely should have had one against Nebraska. It was so close, so close. But I am looking for those senior defenders to have a phenomenal game across the board. Penn State 42, Rutgers 17, final regular season game. Penn State gets bowl eligibility after this one. And that is where we're going to wrap things up on this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Hope you and yours had a fantastic Thanksgiving and you have plenty of leftovers to enjoy through the weekend. So thank you so much. I am grateful. I am thankful for all of you that check out this podcast and for all the support. If you are new to the show, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcasting network out there. And we talk about your favorite Penn State sports teams every single day.